Welcome to the show. Welcome to What About This Idea? I'm super happy. We haven't been recording every week in the summer, and I've really missed it.
I have too.
I know.
You mean that, don't you?
I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. I was super excited this morning, not only because we have a fantastic guest,
Right.
but also that we're recording again.
I know. It's there's something about it that's actually fun and a little bit empowering and all
I
that.
know.
So.
And
Yeah, what about this idea? That's the show. What are they going to get out of this again?
again,
They already know.
it's about and for entrepreneurs, right?
Okay, is it about their hearts and their minds?
Inside
or is it about
the
their,
hearts and minds of entrepreneurs.
or is it about their big ideas?
Oh my God. It's both, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's both. It's. I know. I like to remind people of this. We don't talk about it enough. It's about getting people to tell their story about their entrepreneur trip.
Yeah.
Right. None of them are the same.
Nope.
And we learn by hearing stories. We learn by storytelling. We learn to hear who that human being is, and that's why we say inside. And I always look up at the sign, inside the hearts and minds of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think before we get into our guest, and we'll get in right away, but I think I think people who are thinking about entrepreneurship need to understand it'll damn near kill you sometimes. I just want to throw that out there.
Caveat.
It's great, but it's really frustrating at times.
Just
So,
keep swimming. Just keep
Yep.
swimming. I always think that.
Yep.
Just like,
Dory or
swim
whatever.
around all of the sharks and all of the whatever else is trying to eat you.
the other big fish,
Yeah, the big fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume.
That's right.
All right, should we do this?
Let's bring our guest in because I can't tell you I'm excited. So
You
actually,
have been super excited about this.
I have,
Yeah.
because I have been admiring Lisa's work for a long time. She knows this, but she doesn't really, she's giving me a frowny frown, saying that maybe I haven't been, but I have. I always, when I talk about you and I introduce people to you, I always say, you have to meet Lisa Lavin. She's the epitome.
It's Lavin.
Oh, I always say Lavin.
It was Levine in my head too,
Lavin.
but it's Lavin.
There's no E at the end of my name.
That's right.
Then it would be Lavin, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Maybe. But
Lavin.
don't throw another
like
one in there.
lavender. So I'm going with that. I get it. So I've been pronouncing your name wrong every time I introduce you.
That's okay.
Out in the world.
There you go. So
I'm sure.
But I say it because you've been in a lot of different areas. You haven't always been an entrepreneur, and so much of your career was not as an entrepreneur, and now you
Were
are.
you an entrepreneur before you were like out in the world?
I
as
was a
one, though?
wannabe
Okay.
for years.
Yeah.
Yes.
In what way?
Well, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My grandfathers were entrepreneurs and grandfathers before that. And, I watched my family build business, and
But
I
do you
knew I
use
wanted to do
word?
that.
Like, do you use the word entrepreneur as if like everybody knows what it means and it's not? Because it's kind of hoity-toity, isn't it? The word.
Well, I just think it's a descriptor, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily use it to describe myself. What I do say is I've always had that itch, and it took a lot of years to get there. It was a long, winding road to be able to finally get there, and I would say at the very end I was pushed into it. I thought, oh no,
Like
now
by the
I'm too
universe?
old. I can't do it. But the universe just absolutely
You're not too
pushed me.
old?
No, no, not anymore.
No.
Yeah.
She's aging backwards, obviously.
We need Kelsey here to assume that we're all in our 30s.
I know, Kelsey, we had a guest on that was like, well, we're all about the same age, right? And she's like 32.
Mid-
And we're like,
mid-30s.
yeah, we are.
I'm 12.
Yeah.
So no, when you say entrepreneurs, like, did your family describe each other as entrepreneurs, or were they business owners?
They're just business owners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I mean, because
Yeah.
the word itself is sort of like it's fraught with something. It's got some connotation to it that.
Yeah, I just knew I wanted to own my own business someday. I just didn't know what it was going to be.
Was it the universe that pushed you into it, or was it physical, like someone was, like you're standing on the edge of the train tracks and they're like, oh.
Which kind of felt that way.
Jump,
It did.
Lisa, jump.
the train's coming.
But isn't it true that the circumstances of life just steer you in a certain direction?
Absolutely.
And no matter how hard you try not to go in that direction,
Yes.
you're going to get there eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, we're going to get all existential, but
We always do.
we always do. But it's not like, I don't personally feel like there's like a map that has already been.
Predestined.
Yeah. It's like predestination does not make sense to me, but nonetheless, you're like, you're kind of pushed through. It's like there's little walls on each side, and you're kind of bouncing toward the thing you're going to get to eventually anyway. And I don't know. I don't know if that's
Just it's what you've been imagining, right? It's like I wanted to be an entrepreneur, so
Yeah.
the world just kept giving you opportunities to be an entrepreneur. Of which
Yeah.
finally it seemed like, how do you phrased it like I got pushed into it? What does that mean?
It really all came down to the Great Recession. And it was
that
during
thing.
that period of time, in that 2008 to 2010 period of time, where unemployment rates were skyrocketing.
Yeah.
The startup that I was involved with at the time went under. And, I was out there flailing. And I always tell the story in this way is, I'm a former 3M'er, so
Okay.
I love Post-it notes. And I had this whole wall of Post-it notes. This whole
Did you
thing.
steal them?
I did.
From the office?
I would never.
They give them away there. They're
Just
like,
kidding. Their face. Lisa, I trust you weren't thieving from the office, but
No.
But like, do you have multicolors and stuff? Like all of them denoting some aspect of something?
I'm kind of a truist. They got to be yellow.
Okay, so they got to stick with just straight
classic.
yellow. Yeah.
So, I'm unemployed,
Yeah.
right? It's 2008. It's the Great Recession. Previous startup went under, and I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life.
And it wasn't your startup.
No,
It was
no.
someone else's. But
I
you were important
left
in it?
I was recruited by a recruiter.
Okay.
When I
Recruiters are
was
cool.
they are very cool. I was at 3M, and 3M is a wonderful company,
Yeah.
and they treated me so well. They gave me so many different opportunities, and I felt like I was on this little red pillow, and given all these opportunities, and then a recruiter called me and said, "Hey, do you want to be second in command of this healthcare startup?" I went, "Yeah."
Of course they do. Yeah.
Yes, of course I do. So I
So-
left, and it made a good run of it. But then the Great Recession happened. The company went under,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with my life.
I've got questions around this, though.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions. First of all, from 3M's perspective, do you feel like the recruiter, would they feel like the recruiter stole you away from them? If you were there and everything was going great, and then one day you're like,
That's a really harsh way of phrasing that. I mean, I
That's the
feel
recruiter.
like a recruiters really could be described in a way that they see your potential for something brand new.
sounds like a
And they
like a
just
great
are
employee
introducing
thief.
an opportunity to you.
I don't know. 3M may have a different way of looking at it.
But here's
That's
the
all I'm
thing. Most people, I have placed people from 3M to small to mid-sized companies, and they don't do well in them.
Generally, or
Generally,
Yeah.
because you're used to being in a system that is very systemized, right? You have rules that you follow, you have resources, this is how you get your resources, this is how you operate. And in a startup, you've got to be the COO, sometimes the one answering the phone, sometimes the one doing this and that. And
It's entrepreneurship.
yeah,
not-
even though people say they want that, the majority of people can't succeed in that environment.
Well, that's interesting you should say that, because I found that the big company just wasn't a fit for me, that I didn't want to be just pigeonholed in one role, a marketing role or business development or whatever that might be. I wanted to do so many other things. And so I really tried being that entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right?
We talk about those
Yes.
people, yes.
Yeah,
And how they get crushed, their souls get crushed in big businesses. Yeah.
So
Sometimes.
I tried it. I've learned a lot. I am
Yeah.
grateful to companies like 3M that taught me so much and invested
Yeah.
in me. And because of that, I've felt enough guts to be able to leave that beautiful little red pillow and do something different.
Yeah.
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 No, that makes sense. I was poking.
But most people don't, honestly.
Poking a little fun. Well,
they don't leave that pillow because there's maybe an opportunity over there that seems different. But then suddenly their resume says 25 years at 3M,
But it was.
there's nothing wrong with that, right? Until 3M
But not
sells
everyone
half
wants,
its company.
Not everyone wants the discomfort of owning their own business and
It's-
trying to start these.
Well,
things
you do
and
want
stuff.
it
Like,
until you right,
until you realize it's
until
not.
you're,
It's not
oh
all
my
it's cracked
God,
up to be for
what the
some
hell is
people.
this roller coaster ride? Right. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So but then when you started, you said you were second in command at the startup, but you still didn't feel like that was your business. Is that right? Even though you're number two is pretty close to the top.
Really wasn't it. I did feel a great sense of ownership of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And certainly had a little piece of the pie and felt invested in that organization. And we made a great run of it. In 3 years' time, we doubled the business. We expanded our partner portfolio. We did all of these things. But, things happen, like the perfect storm of reimbursement. And we all of a sudden had to change our business model. And the company couldn't change fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's business.
Right.
It happens. So that.
And then 12 years later, things
What do you
like
do
that
now?
happen. Yeah, I
don't know anything about you. So what do you do now? Where are you at?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur.
So Sam,
Okay.
again, as a reminder to our listener watchers, Sam has no idea who's walking into this room. And if I start telling him a little bit about him, he'll shush me. Yeah,
I do
he'll
like
shush
a kid.
me. So he literally
kid.
has no idea what Ōmcare is. Do you pronounce it Ōmcare?
It's Ōmcare.
See? Do you see?
It's got a little line of the O to help
I should
out.
actually, read it properly.
Yeah.
Lisa Lavin.
Ōmcare.
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 It rhymes with home care. Get
Okay.
it?
Oh, I get it.
It's a technology for the home. Yeah.
I know we did the same thing with that poor. How did we pronounce Entrebank when we first met Melissa?
Entry Bank or
Entry
something?
Bank.
Something like
And
that.
she's like, no, it's like for entrepreneurs. It's
Like
Entrebank. We're like, oh yeah, it seems it's really obvious, but not apparently.
There are
to
times we miss
us.
the obvious. That's true. Both of us.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna screw it up now now I'm in my head. So Ōmcare.
Home.
So is that like, it's not umlauts, but is that supposed to be?
Ōmcare.
Yeah, but that's the little thing that like the Germans use, right? And the Norwegians.
The umlaut is actually I think the two little
dots.
dots.
Yeah, that's an umlaut, yep.
Yeah, I can't remember what this is called.
I just remember when I was being taught German that there are, like, we have 7 vowel sounds or 12 vowel sounds or whatever, and they have a couple extra ones, and it's the umlaut that makes this sound that like Americans can't make. People who speak English,
Is it
there's
the
a
guttural part?
there's a certain thing that we can't say that they're like, oh yeah, that's the one. They tease you for it. So anyway,
the
it's not
Rs?
that. It's just Ōmcare, right?
Correct.
I don't have to try and put anything.
Ōmcare.
It's like Ōmcare. It's home care without the H.
Correct.
Okay, great. That makes it so much easier. I'm
See,
still going to screw it up.
No,
so
you got it. I
What
think
does
you got
Ōmcare
it.
do?
Well, so what Ōmcare is a digital health technology company that has created a platform to enable care in the home
Yep.
that promises right medication, right time, right person.
Okay.
So here's the deal. Why do we exist?
Humans?
Okay, we're back.
Or
to
your business? Your business. Thought you were going real deep with that one. Oh, why do we exist?
We could go there too.
Why does Ōmcare?
Why are
I
we
really
here?
did think you were.
Okay.
I'm like, holy shit.
He's gonna roll with
Lisa,
it.
I don't know. You're gonna explain it to me now.
Yeah. Let's explain it.
Ōmcare. So why does Ōmcare exist? Yes, right?
So a few stats that you may already know, and I think some people are very familiar with, is the fact that we've got 11,000 people every day turning age 65.
Okay. Yep.
And what we also have, confounding problem, is today we've got 7 to 1 caregivers for every senior, and by 2030 that ratio goes down to 4 to 1, and soon thereafter goes down to 3 to 1.
Okay.
Bigger problems even more is the fact that the number one cause of hospitalizations in the United States is because people are just not taking the right medication at the right time.
Oh.
And it's a driving factor, one of the leading causes why people end up needing assisted living. Here's the deal. We don't have enough caregivers in our world to take
Right.
care of our aging population. And we know that it's very expensive when I need help. So how do we make it easier to, A, stay out of the hospital, B, stay as independent and living where I want to live as long as possible? Technology can help.
Yes.
But today, if you go into a home and you look at technology that exists, it's all disparate. It's like blood pressure cuff over there, the scale and the wearables over there, and the tablet over here, and everything is just like complicated and very often stiff-armed by a person
Stiff arm.
Just like
What do you mean? Like they're like, I don't want that.
I don't want that, right?
Yeah,
It's
okay.
just
I've not heard
just
that.
very resistant to it.
Yeah, totally.
So what we wanted to do is we wanted to remove technology as the barrier. We wanted to make technology really easy. We wanted to bring it all together into one single system and integrate directly with the pharmacies so that when medications are mailed to my home, I can insert them right in the hub, and I don't have to put in a schedule. I don't have to fill up a pill box anymore. It can
you are
alert me
speaking-
when it's time to take my medication.
You're addressing something important. I see that.
Incredibly important.
Yeah, I mean, my whole family's in healthcare. My older brother's a doctor. My dad was a critical care nurse and a neurological clinic administrator. My stepmother's a nurse. My wife is an ultrasound technician. Everybody's in healthcare except me.
Yeah.
But
We're all happy for that, Sam.
that I'm not in healthcare.
Yeah.
If I were in it, I would just be like, why don't you just lie down on the couch and we'll
Take a
chat for a
nap.
while. That's where I would fit in, not the you're bleeding and let me help you. I can do a little of that, but just like anyway. You really threw me off.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Everyone's in healthcare. My father is currently in the hospital. He's been there for 6 weeks, but he's got a pill box. He never took pills before he got multiple. He has multiple myeloma, and it's bad. But
I'm very sorry.
Well, yeah. It's I'm sorry for everyone who's got it. It's
Yeah,
awful.
it's awful.
Awful crap. But he never took pills. Never had a thing. Now he's got like 2 of these boxes with all day. You got to take these ones at this time, this time, this time. And he's been in healthcare, and my whole family's in healthcare, and my stepmother is my age, and she's a nurse. It's still confusing for them, and he still takes the medication incorrectly. So your system helps people in that situation sort and organize their pills.
Yeah, it gets rid of all of that, and it really helps you, if you will, hit the easy button as it relates
Yeah.
to taking your medication.
No kidding.
So our system dispenses medication that comes directly from the pharmacy, and because of that integration, the schedule is already embedded in the system.
Yeah.
So, our system actually provides multiple levels of assistance. If I'm really independent, the system just alerts me when it's time for me to take my meds. I grab the meds, I take them, and I confirm I took them.
Yep.
Right?
Okay.
But our system also enables what we call caregiver assist. So an actual caregiver or family member can call me via our hub. And by the way, our first product is called the Ōmcare Home Health Hub. So my family member or caregiver can call me on the hub, can walk me through the dispense process, and they can literally watch me take the medication from the tray and place it in my mouth.
Right.
To do what we do today, you have to do what's called a door med pass. You have to show up at somebody's door, hand them the medication, and watch them take it. And because of our 3 cameras on our system, now we can do this remotely. So what normally takes a caregiver 20 minutes time in a facility to do, we can now do in 3.5 minutes time. So for senior care providers, this is a new way to provide a new service that is much more efficient, that allows my RNs to focus at their license level and
Yep.
allows us to leverage non-credentialed caregivers in a new care model to help
Yeah.
people maintain their medications
Yeah.
Remotely.
remotely.
Amazing. I know.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. I think you've pitched this before, haven't you?
Just
Just use
Yeah. I can tell.
Did
No, you're
you
very
come up
good
with
at
this
it.
idea?
Yes, but not alone, and
Yeah.
certainly not in a vacuum or a bubble.
Yeah.
It actually goes back to that wall of Post-it notes
Yeah.
that I described.
Yeah.
right?
That you did not pilfer. I get it.
No,
You did not.
no.
Okay. So you got the wall of Post-it notes.
Well, so here's the deal. Here you are. You're in the Great Recession.
Yeah.
Right? And
I remember
you got to
that
find
time.
a job.
Yeah.
You got to find a job. I'm supporting my family and my household. I got to find a job. And so everything on that wall was different kind of job opportunities or different directions I wanted to go. And every single Post-it note I would pull off would end up in a no.
So you were taking ideas from your brain, putting them on the wall, and then you'd pull them off and look at it and be like, okay, now I'm going to focus on this one and think whether I really want to do it. And each one ended up a no. Is that?
Or you
Yes.
tried?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until there was one last Post-it note on the wall. I mean, I had gone through it all. I had looked at so many different opportunities. And that one last Post-it note was the entrepreneurial route. Because I thought at that time, I'm too old for this. There's just no way.
If you had a bunch of them and the one that caught you was entrepreneurial, then you definitely...
No, it was the last option.
You were always an entrepreneur, though. Like, because most people would be like, well, that's the scariest one of the whole bunch. I'm going to burn that one. You know?
That's why I went last. It's exactly it. I was scared to pick that Post-it note off the wall because it meant that I was going to be taking risk. Well, what I learned from that is the highest risk thing for me to do is keep trying the same thing over and over again. And the highest risk thing, the lowest risk thing for me to do is what I perceived as the highest risk.
Oh, man, you're getting really deep.
I know. So
now we know.
That Post-it note.
We have an audience, and there are people watching this who might be considering their entrepreneurial, like their start in business ownership or entrepreneurship at any level, right? And for you to say that, like, that's the least risk it was a profound statement.
It is.
I'm looking at the camera.
I think it's funny risk, right? Because you want to be risk embracing, but you don't want to be reckless. And I think a lot of people connect risk and recklessness together. And risk taking is a bit more calculated than that, but it still is going to feel the same. It's going to feel like a risk. And as we, as entrepreneurs, continue to take different risks, it's almost like you work that risk muscle, right? It's like, oh, okay.
You're getting all risk.
Now I gotta take another risk. Yeah.
No, I'm very risk adverse.
Yeah.
I really
Naturally.
am. It just, we're going to be calculated about all of this. So here's what that Post-it note was. It was to make a phone call and see if I could schedule a lunch with this inventor. Because I thought...
know this person?
I had met him once.
Okay.
He's, come to find out, one of the world's most prolific inventors.
Do I know this
He's got
person?
over 350 patents to his name.
I might.
Dr. Mark Kroll.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
There's another one in Minnesota who's like got a ton of inventions.
Over 350 patents to his
Wow.
name. Yeah, he just thinks smart all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go to lunch with Mark Kroll, and I have no idea what I'm going to ask him. I have no
love
idea
this.
what is going to come from this, other than I knew this is the last Post-it note on my wall. I'm going to go have this conversation.
Yeah.
And then it popped into my head. Mark, do you have a patent burning a hole in your back pocket?
Do you have a big idea that needs a
Do you have a big idea?
a person
Exactly.
to do it?
And he said,
Yes.
what about this idea?
He said, I actually do. I have 3 patents that are burning a hole in my back pocket.
Yeah.
And it was about this pet phone thing.
Pet phone?
Pet phone. Yes.
So you could talk to your pet.
So it was patents that he had built around a way to be able to interact with your pet and dispense treats remotely.
I love it. I immediately got it.
Yeah.
He's got the thing.
Right?
He's like,
Yeah.
hey, puppy, you want another
Go,
treat?
honey.
You were being so good laying
Roll
there sleeping
over.
all day long. Because that's all they do when you leave. And then it gives him a treat. And you're like, you know what? I think we could change this.
So I said to Mark, you know what? Because my brain just started to
I'm
spin.
an entrepreneur now. The Post-it said so.
Yeah.
And I said, give me a month. I'll be back.
Yeah.
So for the next month, I actually started doing my own focus
Did he
panels.
wait there for the entire month,
No,
do you
he
think?
didn't. He went home.
Just checking. I'm dumb.
BRB.
I'm dumb today, yeah. Sorry. I didn't get a lot of sleep, so we're good. But yeah, he didn't sit right there. All right.
So for this next month, I start building a business plan, and I start trying to poke holes in it.
Yep.
I think, okay, if I'm going to invest my life into something, this has got to be as risk mitigated as possible.
Exactly.
Right? And all of a sudden, I started talking to people, and I started looking at this idea, and I realized, no, this is much more than a pet phone thing.
Yeah.
That this is something that can be actually a platform that we could test in the pet segment, but ultimately get to healthcare.
Right.
There's a number of vulnerable populations that we have that need remote care, that need help, but they also need really easy technology. You know a dog that can use a computer? No, but we developed a computer that a dog could use.
Yeah. Right.
To be able to not only me call my dog can actually call me. Oh, yes.
Those
So
needy little
we went all
buggers.
out. So, okay, I went back to Mark. A month later, we had lunch again. And I said, I think we've got an opportunity here to create a platform. We're going to test it here first, but ultimately we're going to develop this remote care dispensing of medication platform in the future.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll co-found that business with you.
Yeah.
And so we did.
That's what you need in life. Sometimes it's...
That was actually a quick decision, it sounds like.
I was ready.
You were
because
ready.
after 30 days, I ran the numbers. I figured this is something that we can make happen. And as it turns out, when we developed the pet phone, which was called...
Does it exist?
It still exists, which is called Pet Chats.
Yeah.
It went viral.
Of course it did.
I mean,
People love their dogs.
People have
we ended up
copied
on the
it.
front page of the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times.
You were?
Yeah. I am, right, today, if you went to Netflix and you looked up the series called Chelsea Does with Chelsea Handler.
Yeah.
In episode number 2 called Chelsea Does Silicon Valley, I'm in her home installing Pet Chats and having a conversation.
No kidding?
Yeah. I mean, it went nuts.
I can't be giving you a hard
Oh my
time
God.
then. You're like a big
Chelsea
deal.
Handler,
No.
rock
Yes,
star.
you are.
And she loves her dogs.
Oh, she does.
Oh, she loves her
She
dogs.
does. So
Yeah.
I don't know her.
that was a lot of
I
fun.
do. I mean, I know who she is.
In 2017, when we finally felt good about this platform, that it was solid. It was
Okay,
rock
so
solid.
for pets still at that point.
Yep.
Yep.
It was in 2017 that we started what we call our rinse and repeat process.
Yep.
So we started the exit process of Pet Chats.
Yep.
And we were full on 100% focused on the development
sell
of
Pet
Ōmcare.
Chats?
We did. We sold that business.
Oh, so you're one of those people who has had an exit. Like
Yes.
A successful exit.
It was an exit.
Those are.
It sounded like
that's
there was
important
a
stuff.
high tide there. It's time to sell at that
Well,
high
it was
time.
never going to be where we focused our time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, this was merely a predicate product, if
Yeah,
you will.
a proving
So
ground for
it's
the
a proving
one
ground,
you wanted to really get to.
which is where we are today.
And when did you start Pet Chats then?
In 2011.
Okay, so listeners, if you didn't catch that, 2011 to 2017, you got 6 years there. Now we're 7 years further, so 13 years. I think people, when they conceive of something that they want to build, they often make the mistake of thinking that it's going to happen quickly. It's kind of going to happen overnight.
You know, I remember, and I've told this story a number of times. It does bear repeating. I was told very early on by mentors, Lisa, it's going to take you twice as much money and twice as much time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I arrogantly would look at them going, that's for other people.
Confidently.
No, it took me 4 times as much money and 4 times as much time.
Yeah, they were underestimating.
Look, starting a business is hard.
It is.
Doing hardware, doing a device is harder yet.
Getting out into a market, getting people to actually buy that once
Right.
you've built it. I mean, that's
Well,
it's
both of
almost
those are
impossible.
totally distinct businesses, right?
The
You
dogs
Have,
at
you have
home.
a
But,
product.
they're very
a
similar.
thing.
It's a device with two-way audiovisual platform that dispenses something.
No, I mean what I mean is it's just as important the device itself as it is the software that runs it.
Oh,
right. And
right.
the integrated systems that I mean they're both just as complicated. People sell just products, and people sell just software, but you've got both of those complications.
You are spot on. And I talk about our
smart.
system. She is. I talk about our system as having a heart and a soul. The heart is really the hardware, and the soul is the operating system
Yep.
that we've
Yeah.
developed on the platform and the app that goes along with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's-
over the years, as you've been doing it. So I think it would be important for us to really understand, you've got first of all, you had a full-time job for part of this time, didn't you?
While you were building this,
No, I was
No, you were
full-time building this.
full-time in.
did you raise funds?
She raised funds, and she has the most rock star board of directors.
I do.
I mean, of course, I
Really?
would say yes to her, anything she asked, but apparently other people do too. And she's got
Well, she
this
was
like
on the cover of
super-
magazines and
yeah,
whatnot.
exactly. So, how much do you think? Because you're a very calculated, intelligent woman, right? And how much do you think where you are today was absolute calculation and the other was serendipity or synergy or all of those things?
Here's how I'll answer that. I am who I am today and where I am today because those along the way that helped me.
Yeah.
I am the result of my mentors, my friendships, the people smarter than me that guided me to help us get to where we are. And I just am eternally grateful. And I will tell you, one of my axioms is my humility and my willingness to learn makes all things possible.
Yeah.
But coupled with tenacity, because here's the deal: there have been many times I've wanted to give up.
Of course.
It's been hard, and you'll hear entrepreneurs say this: "This is going to be the death of me." Yes, it very well could be the death
But
of me.
so is the job at, no offense to 3M, but so is the job at 3M. Like, we are all hurtling toward our own demise anyway. It's just, that's the nature of life. You just chose an adventure. You chose to go wander off into the wilderness where there wasn't a path, and then find your way to something. Whereas you otherwise, you can be at, again, no offense, 3M, we love you as a sponsor. So dumb.
They're not our sponsor.
No. But that is the path has been paved there. That's what you were saying earlier about when you're part of a system and it's all systematized and it seems easy in a certain way. But you chose I'm going to create a path. And that's way more difficult, but have you found it rewarding?
Well, I'm curious too. Yeah. Look at her. She's amazing.
I know.
The tenacity piece, right?
That's one of our favorite words.
I love that word, and thank you for using it.
Yeah.
There's this, we talked earlier about risk, and we talked about calculation, or risk and being reckless, right? The same goes for tenacity, right? How did my dad used to put it? Don't beat a dead horse, right? It's sort of along those lines. What drove you to continue to be tenacious and keep driving toward it, even though everything in you said, I don't know if I can do this? And when would that mean it's really time to give up?
That is a great question. No, it really, really, truly is.
I know
because,
it is.
There are some businesses and business opportunities out there that are not valid. You could maybe try it a little bit, fail fast, and be done. I believed from day dot that this, I could drive this and hit this out of the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
I could. I knew I could. Mm-hmm. And in those days where it just seemed really dark and it didn't seem like this was working. Again, another mentor of mine said, "Lisa, just keep stumbling toward the light." Just keep stumbling toward the light. Okay, I'm going to just keep stumbling toward the light.
Crawling.
And I felt like a dog on a bone. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
To me, that's the wilderness, right? You're out in the dark in the wilderness, and somewhere there's that voice just keep crawling, and you're like, I don't know if I can keep crawling, but you do.
Yeah.
You
It
just
reminds
keep doing it.
I'm going to tell this story. It reminds me of the story because every time I feel like giving up, in my current endeavors, I think of this, and this is not to mention that I did this, but I might as well mention that I did this. About 10 years ago, I hiked up to Machu Picchu, over the mountains and over the valleys,
through the woods
and all that. And we were I was exhausted, right? So exhausted. And the last bit is this rickety staircase that you probably crawl up 100 feet, right? You're supposed to walk it, but I was not walking by that time. I was crawling, and I still couldn't see where I was crawling to. Once you got all the way up to that 100 feet, you could finally see Machu Picchu. You could see the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I kept imagining it would be there. I believed it would be there. I had everyone else believing it was going to be there, and there it was. So a lot of times I think about that tenacity, you just need to keep crawling. Just pay attention to how rickety that step is, and step over that one, and then get to the next one and step over that one, and know by the time you get to the top of the stairs that you will see Machu Picchu, right? And every time I feel like giving up, I had a moment yesterday, right? Every time I felt like giving up, I remember those stares in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, you know you're doing all the right things. You know you've got I'm going to say it, scaffolding for success, right? You know you've got that. So just keep crawling up the rickety stairs.
It's true.
Exactly.
It's true.
Right.
For me personally, it's always these Arctic canoe trips that I used to guide, where you start and you know you have to get to the end, and no matter what happens along the way. But it's the same. I think most entrepreneurs understand that these types of analogies, that whether you're in the wilderness or you're crawling along in the dark, go to the light. Like, some part of you has to be able to say, I will no matter what bring this to fruition. And it's almost because you can kind of see the future a little bit. Like, you're maybe the only person or one of very few people who can see when this product or this idea is completed, it will be successful, but it's going to be torture to get to that point.
Well, you don't have to imagine the torture, but you have to be willing to do it.
Yeah, you have to be willing.
And sometimes it's just hanging on to the belief. You have to believe. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the idea, in your vision, and you just have to keep taking that one step in front of the other.
Yeah.
You just have to keep going.
You just have to keep going.
You just have to keep going.
And sometimes, and I think a lot of people, when they have the idea, they sort of think that they've had the hard part. And then people who've been in it in business or entrepreneurship for a long time are like, oh no, ideas are cheap. It's the in fact, ideas, the whole history of humanity is littered with dead ideas that didn't go anywhere. It's the doing of it and the getting it to growing that idea into a fully functioning thing is the hard part, not the having of ideas.
It's almost like the idea doesn't matter in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like I've met people who have made tons of money on a plastic hair clip.
Right.
That nobody knew they needed, and then suddenly they needed it. The person I used to know, the person that made the lava lamp.
Started the lava lamp?
Started the lava lamp. And then it went viral in the 60s, and still people buy lava lamps.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you really have to have tenacity and belief to think that that's going to, fund your family.
Because you don't just manifest a lava lamp. You have the idea, and then you're like, okay, but I got to get someone to actually build this thing.
Yeah.
And, so, yeah. It's the idea.
It's a really simple thing.
I know.
It's like a bottle, weird shaped bottle with a bottle cap on it.
Yeah.
And then just a light.
Yeah. Wait, did we get off topic?
We did, totally. We did.
Who knows? Mm-hmm. All right, you know what? Off topic is a good segue into the break.
And one of the things I want to tee up, so this is not a break, though. This is the end of this first show, right? We're going to do it in 2 shows now?
Well,
we'll see how we get.
As far as the audience is concerned, yes, you're going to have to wait till next week. For the second half to come out.
So we are.
Second half.
We do have an audience of which we have to talk to.
Yeah, second half is different. It's always different.
But I'd like to. One of the things that I feel like, as much as you're willing to reveal, I kind of want to know what makes you tick, right? Like, where did you come from that this tenacity is built into you?
You mean in the second half?
Yeah, in the second half. Who are you as a human being, right? And how can we learn from you as a human being, like what habits work for you, where you have to work on things, right? We always put this is a social media world, right? We always put our best face forward. Well, we don't, but other people in social media.
You're supposed to, evidently.
Other people get themselves ready and do filters and things, and we don't do that. But I feel like sometimes we have to let other entrepreneurs know that we're not perfect, right? And that it isn't that I'm a better person than you are. It's that I just came to it with all of these blemishes and pimples and everything else. Well, you don't have a single blemish or a pimple. I'm sitting over here, and I know this is completely appropriate, but you're the most beautiful woman. Have you always been this beautiful? I mean, it's stunning.
I don't disagree. I'm so glad you
said
it.
You couldn't say it.
If I try and compliment people, are you from Minnesota? Did you grow up here?
Yeah.
Can you take a compliment?
Sure.
I can't. Most Minnesotans are like, oh God, don't say nice things about me. That's terrible. But yes, you are beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, stunning. Anyway, all right. The next show, we're going to kind of dig in.
Yeah,
Okay.
second half. All right.
All right.
Break time.
Later.